We just watched Bryson hit 222 ball speed, personal best.
221. My personal best.
Almost
Almost got to 222.
That was pretty amazing to watch. You were kind of around 217, 218. Kyle was kind of ramping you up, turning the music up a little bit. We're like, you're going to get there, you're going to get there, you're going to get there. And you did. It's awesome.
Yep, I was very excited about that, and this is all due to the new head. I mean, when we talk about drivers, you know, there's this conversation about how much more can you go, right? Well, it's not necessarily always about how much more you can go with the equipment, because there is a CT limit, but there are ways to go around it, obviously. But really, it's about a lot of the mishits.
Yes.
So we want speed, which obviously that's the aerodynamics that we're getting and improving always upon. But then there's the curvature side of it. And the thing that people miss a lot of times is that when you start hitting it all over the face, and it goes into the middle of the fairway, that gives your brain confidence that this driver is working consistently for you, so you can keep ramping speed.
When you were over there and you hit one, it's like you'd hit one and you could kind of tell your body language, like, I didn't like that one, or I hated it, I mishit that one. You watch the ball flight and we're all going, you hated it. Why? Like, it looks perfect.
Exactly.
It was not curving hardly at all.
Misses on heel, slightly toe, slightly high, slightly low. They were all still dialed. What we would call the fairway, which is really impressive.
Easily in the fairway,
Exactly. And that's the whole point of this. And I'm still obviously going to have error where I'm going to overclose something and I'm going to leave it open. Those are my faults. But when you do square it up and you do mislocate the middle of the face, you hit it all over the face, you want that ball performing to go back into the middle of the fairway. That's why we have this whole face, right? And so that's the beautiful part about it, is that through long drive, with Kyle's work and my work and our input into Cobra, we've worked on designing a face that is now usable at these speeds, which for knowing these geometries at these speeds, it's going to help us help the consumer down the road. And that's the most important thing, I think, is once you start understanding both parameters, the lower end of it, the lower swing speed of it, and then the higher end swing speed of it, you can hit the middle.
So one thing I also noticed is kind of the harder you went at it, the more the ball was just literally dead straight. And I think probably when you started your speed journey, if I'm not mistaken, you were playing a little bit more of a draw with previous generation drivers.
So it's funny, for me, when I ramp speed, I usually go more outside in.
Interesting.
So that's more of me swinging and turning harder, and I just don't drop the hands early enough. So when I'm swinging softer, I can come from the inside really easily. But as I start ramping up speed, it comes more over the top, which is fine.
Right.
I just, again, that's why we have a face that squares up to it, and all the place on the faces that you're hitting it.
So when we see you on tour, will we see a little bit more of a right to left shape when we get back out there?
It's always still a draw. I love drawing the ball. That's my most consistent shot shape for me, and I'll continue to do that. And in long drive, it'll tend to be more straight. And that's just because of the speed that I produce.
Cool.
So I'm very, very lucky that that's the way it worked out for me.
Heel side weight, Jose and I were chatting. Really interesting with an LS head. People always associate them, they're going to be super fade biased. And we saw this and we went, okay, that's really cool. There's a bit of heel weight. I know this is not the final head that you'll be playing, so there's a bit of lead tape there, but talk to me about that heel side.
There will be weight in here down the road, but for me, I like hitting a draw. And so based on the geometry of the face and where the CG is located, when I do hit it more on the toe, if the CG is more over to the heel, you're going to be relatively hitting it more on the toe, right? And so in that case, it's going to be gear affecting more for a draw. And so for me, that's what I like. And we've made a curvature that fits that CG location. And once that happens, you're allowed, for me, when you're swinging it inside out, to miss it all over the face, and they all come back to the middle.
Into a nice cluster,
It's going to be a draw setup on purpose for him, right?
So
we talked about it today, bringing that CG closer to the hosel, more inside from the center face. Just like you said, relatively speaking, that's a toe hit, which is going to generate gear effect for a draw.
Gear effect. And did you find previous generation drivers, I mean, even going back 2-3 years, were they a little tougher for you to find that shape that you like?
Well, every driver that I've ever tried since like 2015 or 2016, right after 2016, has all been more fade biased.
Interesting.
Which is really interesting. And so now we're starting to come back to a place where it's drawing a little bit more, which I personally like. And so we've tried to re-engineer and design something that allows me to draw it more often. And this is what we've come up with.
Really cool. So Jose told us is this one of Kyle's long drive heads? Is that right?
Yeah, it was an early long drive head. We actually have a head for Bryson that we're developing. That's a smidgen higher in loft, but you notice this is a really low lofted head. When he's swinging hard and he's got a longer shaft, he has a little bit lower loft, but the in-play driver typically for you is somewhere around 6.5.
Okay, so we'll see with a bit more loft.
Yeah, because I'm not swinging at those speeds. I mean, that takes probably an hour to get to those speeds and swinging full force at it. You're just not really caring too much where it's going to go that much. So that's a whole different setup than when I'm playing golf. It's going to be a little higher lofted, going to be fraction more spin, not too much though. Still want it to be 2,000 to 2,200, but on long drive you want 1,600 to 2,000.
Yeah, you really need to knuckle the ball, right?
Yeah, you want that thing to fly as far as possible because it's a long drive. It's the longest drive, right?
You hit some long drives out there.
There was a few long ones, so that's
really cool.
Yeah.
Switching to this head, shaft-wise, did you stick with the same shaft, LA Golf shaft, or did you make any tweaks with that coming from your last driver?
Stuck with the same shaft.
Really cool.
Same shaft, same grip, Jumbo Max, so I use big grips, obviously. I know this is different, but it's for how I'm able to control the grip and face a lot better. Get better face control with that.
Last but not least, LTD, the first version, was something you really liked. Does this remind you of that a little bit in the sound and feel? Like you're getting a bit of familiarity with that?
1000%. I mean, you got the height of the face is very similar. The hosel is similar. So when I'm setting up over it, it looks very, very similar. And it's familiar, something that gives me comfort that I know when I hit it all over the face, it's going to go back in the fairway.
That's awesome, man.
Tell them about the first time we introduced you. Remember, we were at a photo shoot. We brought you a head, and you hit the standard one, and I said, hey, there's a magic one in the bag for you. He took it out, and it was like opening up a Christmas present for you.
And I was an old friend, right?
I was like, oh my gosh, there it is. It looks exactly like it.
Took it out and smashed it. He's like, this is it.
I was like 204 in the first few hits with that head on a stock 45-inch shaft. I was like, oh my gosh, that's fast. So these things are hot too. They're at the max performance level. So
we've seen tons of people rave about them today, so good to see that you're seeing the same.
Love it.
Awesome. Thanks for doing this with us.
Thank you very much.
Thanks so much.
Pleasure.
Jose, thanks as always.
My pleasure. Thanks, brother.
Good man.